There's a line I heard from a commander in my last year in the Navy that we both laughed off at the time. He told me that the key to happiness in the military was simple. You make the Navy's choice your first choice. Whatever they hand you, drop what you and your family originally wanted and want the Navy's orders instead. I thought that was one of the most subtle, dark things I'd ever heard a grown man say out loud. And I remember thinking, not me. I'll never live like that. And 2 years later, I was standing in an office with a badge around my neck instead of a uniform at a company most of you have web services from. And it hit me that I hadn't left anything behind. I just changed who got to hand me my choices. You've done this too, even if your uniform was a suit or a laptop bag instead of dress whites. You answer emails from the toilet because someone needs to see you're responsive before you actually need to be responsive. You rehearse conversations out loud in the car that you will never have with a person who deserves to hear them. You sit at dinner with the people you love most, present in body, gone everywhere else. You take the promotion you didn't ask for because turning it down felt like a kind of betrayal you couldn't name. Call it discipline, you call it being a good provider, a good employee, a team player. What it actually is a blueprint someone else drew. And you have been executing it so faithfully for so long that you forgot your hand was never the one holding the pen. And the cruelest part of the whole design is that it rewards you for staying inside of it. Better titles, easier assignments, more pay, less friction, right up until the reward itself becomes the reason you never look up long enough to ask whose plan you're actually on. Here's the part I need you to sit with, because it's not what you think it is. This isn't a discipline problem, and it's for damn sure not laziness. That's the lie generic self-improvement sells you, because just try harder is easier to package than the truth, and the truth is mechanical. You are right now running an operating system you did not write. Every operating system runs on the same 5 inputs: your identity, your habits, your beliefs, your relationships, and your environment. If you're honest, almost none of those 5 were installed by you. They were installed by a parent who meant well and needed you compliant by 7 p.m. bedtime. A teacher who needed a quiet room, a commander, a manager, a culture that rewards obedience and calls it maturity, 1 degree at a time. So slowly, you never felt the turn until the kid who knew exactly what he wanted disappeared into the grown man who can't answer, what do you actually want, without listing what he's supposed to want. I'll show you what I mean, because a concept with no floor is just entertainment. My son, he was 4 years old. I asked him what he wants to be when he grows up, and without a flicker of hesitation, he told me he wants to be a race car. Not a driver, he wants to be the car. He wasn't managing my expectations. He hasn't been running long enough for anyone to overwrite that file yet. Almost every one of you had the same clarity once, and you traded it degree by degree for a blueprint that came with a paycheck stapled to it. And here's the part nobody wants to sit with. Once that blueprint is fully installed, you stop noticing it's even running. Now you're a Roomba. You wake up, you execute the routine, you clean the room, you empty the bin, and you return to the charging dock, and you call that life. This isn't just some metaphor. I'm giving you a mechanical description of what an unexamined operating system does to a grown adult over enough years. And this isn't the only routine that gets installed, it's a whole sense of who you're allowed to be. There's a version of my own worldview I can compress into one sentence, and it goes like this. We are not ourselves. We are what we think other people want us to be. That's the actual mechanism underneath the fog, the flatness, the 2 a.m. spiral. It's not a chemical imbalance in your ambition. A person running someone else's cast in someone else's play so long that the mask has fused with the face. Growing up, every single one of us takes on thousands of these micro imprints. A look from a parent, a correction from a teacher, a joke that landed wrong at 13 and never left, until the inner voice that used to tell you exactly what you wanted gets drowned all the way out. You didn't lose your direction all at once. You lost it 1 degree at a time. The same way every one of us did, which is exactly why it never looked wrong from the outside. There's a second piece to this, and it's the one that cost people their marriages before it cost them their careers. In my 30s, civilian, good job, big house, 2 businesses running. My wife was constantly unhappy and I could not understand why. Because I was doing everything the blueprint told me a good husband does. I bought things, we went on trips, I built her a business of her own, and we kept fighting, and I kept getting defensive because obviously the problem couldn't be me. Look at everything I'm doing. What finally cracked it open wasn't another gesture, it was realizing I was the emotional leader of that house. Whether I'd signed up for that role or not, if I lost my calm, the whole house lost its calm with me. The moment I took ownership of that, not of fixing her, but of running my own system on purpose, everything moved faster than I thought possible. Not years, maybe about 1.5 years. That's the difference between a man managing systems and a man who finally traced the wiring. In the Navy, I traced nuclear systems for a living. When something failed, you never guessed at the cause. At least you weren't supposed to. You traced it back to the root. Because guessing gets everybody killed. Nobody had ever traced me. And I bet nobody has ever sat down and asked you which parts of your life you actually chose. And which parts were installed before you had a vote. And this doesn't stop at one kitchen table. I'd be lying to you if I pretended like it did. Every institution we've built, school, military, corporation, the algorithm deciding what you scroll next runs on the exact same principle. Hand a person a blueprint early enough, consistently enough, and they will defend it as their own idea for the rest of their life. And right now, we're handing a blueprint to something new for the first time. And I think about that as a father before I think about it as anything else. What we model, the compliance we mistake for virtue, the noticing without ever naming, the silence at 11 at night once the house finally goes quiet, that is a context we're handing to the next generation, human or otherwise. If we don't know our own blueprint, we have no business handing anyone else one. And that's not a tangent, that's the same wire traced one layer further. I didn't quit that job the week I noticed the pattern. It actually took me a lot longer than I'm proud of. And there were a dozen comfortable orders along the way I almost said yes to. A promotion here, an easier assignment there, all of it dressed up as gratitude for what I already had. What actually moved me wasn't motivation. It was the same waterproof notebook I told you about last week. The one that doesn't warp in the rain. I went back to a clean page, and instead of writing down every idea to make money, I wrote down every part of my life I could actually trace back to a choice that was mine. And the list was so short. That's the work for you, not another book on habits stacked on top of a system that's still someone else's design. The trace, line by line, until you know which parts are yours and which parts were handed to you by someone who meant well, but were never going to live your life for you. And that's what the Deep System Decode actually is. It's not therapy. It's not a personality quiz that tells you which fucking flower to be. It's the trace. So here's the one thing I want you to do today. Don't journal about your feelings. Take out a piece of paper and try to answer one question in one sentence. Which parts of your life right now are actually yours? If you can't finish that sentence, that's not a small thing to notice. That's the whole point of this conversation. So apply for a Deep System Decode. The link is below, and I only take a handful at a time, so don't sit on it.